you can see, I'm teaching at Colchester Pool. Hopefully you can see, hopefully you can hear me. I haven't got any messages. Oh, I had a good, it's a good evening from Darren. Hello, good evening, Darren. Hopefully you can let us know if the audio is okay. Some interesting information, some up-to-date news, as it were. We've got some, just checking the settings. Messages are coming up. It's all working fine. Okay, so apparently there you go, less wibbly. Cool. Okay, so we've got some good news and some bad news. So the bad news is, unfortunately, all the pools are closing for Thursday from for COVID, for the lockdown. So all the pools will be shut for the next 4 weeks, starting on Thursday. So we'll be running tonight at Colchester, which is why I'm here, and we'll be running at Brighton on Wednesday. But after that, the pools are shut for 4 weeks. Having said that, some good news. It's not as good as the bad news is bad. So, you know, sorry to kind of get you excited if there's some fantastic news. But my latest video, our latest video about the caves in Kefalonia, is going to be premiering on YouTube this weekend. We've also got an article. There's a full write-up of our exploits in Kefalonia, in the caves, on Deeper Blue, and that's coming out in the next couple of weeks. So stay posted for that. There'll be some photos and stuff on exclusive to Deeper Blue. So thanks to Stephen and the guys for sorting that out. And yeah, so the video's coming out, premiering this weekend. I'll put some stuff on Facebook and some links on Facebook about that. So it's Monday night, so I'm happy to do some Q&A, and I'm getting the text up now. This is working fantastically. So if you do have a question, welcome to pop it up on the comments, and I'll kind of answer it maybe in the second half of the session. But to start with, I've had a chat with quite a few people over the last few weeks, and there was a recurring theme about questions, a recurring theme in their questions, and I just wanted to spend a few minutes before doing the Q&A about, especially as we're going into lockdown now, about the secret to freediving. And so I'm going to ask you specifically a question. So 2 questions. Number 1, and you can write this down if you want. I suggest you get a pen and paper and write it down. It will tell you stuff about yourself. So question 1 to you: why do you freedive? So just honestly write down, or just remember, if you haven't got a pen and paper, just make a mental note of why you freedive. And question 2: the last few times you've talked about freediving, or the last few posts you put on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you put it out there, has there been a number mentioned in that? As in, when you've talked about freediving, I've done this depth, I've done this time, I've done this distance. And if your reason for freediving isn't numbers, why then is a number included in when you talk about freediving? Why is there that disparity? And also, if numbers aren't your reason to freedive, sorry, Eric's asking, will I do some more jiu-jitsu? Yes, I will, but that's not the point right now. So if numbers are not your reason for freediving, when I asked you what your reason was, if it wasn't depth or time, then why are you booking onto another freediving course, which which advertises numbers, which has you know, requirements of numbers, of depth and time. Why are you doing that? If your reason was exploring, why isn't your next freediving trip an exploring trip, or you know, going to see fish, or photography, etc., etc.? So that's my first question to you. That's where I feel quite a few people are not as honest with themselves as they perhaps could be. I mean, if numbers are your goal, if you said, yeah, I free dive because I want to get to 30 meters, I want to free dive because I want to hold my breath a certain time, or I want to swim a certain number of, then that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But what are you going to do when you get to that depth? Are you going to quit? Or more importantly, what happens if you don't get to that depth or that time? Are you going to quit? You know? So it's that, sit back, think about what your objective is, why you free dive, and then maybe reset your goals slightly. And going on another course which has another requirement, which you're going to pay a lot of money for, to go on a course, just to be able to say, I've done the course, I've got the depth, I've got the time. We're talking about another course, not your first course. Your first course is going to lay the groundwork. Obviously, it's going to do safety, it's going to cover safety, etc., etc. But I'm talking about you guys out there who are already freediving. You know, why are you booking onto another course? What's your reason behind that? And it's just kind of strange amongst sports. You look at, I mean, that guy Eric just asked me if I'm going to do another jiu-jitsu video. Well, I was planning to do one in November, but you know, Boris has put pay to that idea. But that's beside the point. In jiu-jitsu, yes, you're aiming for belts for sake of argument, but belts aren't numbers related. Belts are about skills that you've developed, and you'll always in jiu-jitsu, just as an example, you'll always have people who are the same belt, but you know, they're not going to both destroy you. You know, a white belt, they're not both going to be as good, because when giving out belts, the instructors look at the person and want to see how they've developed, you know, the skill set they've got. They're not going to go and you're going to win, or not all going to win championships or competitions or this or that, but they're different skill sets. And we've got to look at freediving in the same way. We've got to look at freediving in the same way. No, we don't have to. You can do whatever you like. But if you're going to progress, if you're going to have actually a process where you get better, then you've got to step back from those numbers. Okay, so think about the last couple of dives you've done, or you know, whether it's in the pool or whatever. Just, it doesn't matter. Just the last ones you've done. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be your best dive or anything. Just a random dive, and take out the numbers and try and describe that dive. Because as soon as you do that, as soon as you become honest about that dive, about every part of that dive, it's the only way you're going to learn. As soon as there's a number in there, it usurps everything. You know, if you put a number in there, it's a big number, you're going to sit back on that number. And you do find people all the time, they'll say, I did the depth, but I wasn't really trying. You know, I could have done better. Yeah. They're just showing off, but they're not being honest to themselves. Because if they want to do a deeper dive, then they have to be honest and say, well, what could they do better in that dive? Just going, oh, it was easy. Yeah, I could have gone deeper. It doesn't. That's not being honest. That's just pumping. I made that word up. So think about your last dive. Think about what what that dive meant to you. And in an ideal world, you want to do that dive again and learn from it. Yeah. If you just do a dive and say, oh, it's easy, what did you learn from that? Nothing, absolutely nothing. But you've stored in your mind just the number and it was easy. There's nothing. As soon as you describe the dive, this happened, you know, the duck dive was good, my right leg was a bit too high, my nose clip was a bit loose, my hand was a little bit, my elbow wasn't quite in as I was doing my first equalization, I did this, I did that, I did that. It doesn't sound as good down the pub, which is pretty much, in my world, numbers are only good for showing off down the pub. Doesn't sound as good down the pub, but it's more honest. And in fact, you're going to get more people interested in the sport and more interested in your diving if you tell them all these pieces of information. Just a number is just a number. There's no information. We're human beings. We learn by information, by experiences. Okay, so and the other thing that I saw the other day, and it was a thing a few years ago, and I haven't seen it for a couple of years actually, but it happened again the other day a couple of times, different things. When people quote a depth, or whatever, 32.5 meters, you know that was a dive where they were stretching themselves to their limits, okay? Because or some people even 0.3. I mean, 0.3 of a meter, that's that much. Yeah, that's if my watch is here and I touch the bottom, the difference between the end of my fingers and the watch is more than 30 centimeters. And people quote these depths. Oh yeah, no, I did whatever, 28.5. Yeah, which hand was your computer on, dude? Was it on this one up here, which is over a meter away, or was it on this one? The point that it's just a little thing that riles me up. It upsets me that their coach hasn't sat down and gone, look, depth is just one tiny part of the whole dive. It's about 3%. Heck, I'll give you 5% of the dive. So when you quote it as the only thing in the sentence, you're denying 95% of the dive. Okay, so anyway, the other thing is, as a learning goal, you can't hold your breath more and more each week. That's physically impossible. So as soon as you go, well, I did this time last week, I'm going to do that time next week, you're setting yourself up to fail, because you can't keep holding your breath longer and longer each week, else everybody will be holding their breath for 12 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever it is. It's just like you'll just keep holding your breath. So the only way you can do it is step back and look at how good the dive was and the quality of the dive. And this is where honesty comes in, and this is why this is the secret to freediving. Honesty with yourself about how good each part of the dive was. This is where a coach comes in, because a coach can say, you bent your legs too much. Or they can say, you didn't bend your legs too much. That's awesome. Well done. That part there, you did really good. But that's the honesty that you require to progress. Okay. Last thing about numbers, and there's a couple of Vobsters watching this. I have no. There's people sending messages. There's a couple of questions coming, which I will answer. But my last thing about numbers. So the secret to freediving is take the numbers out of your training, and you'll progress much better. Because as soon as you have a number, you give yourself the desire to push for it. It's just human nature. If you're booking onto a course that's got a number involved in it, for instance, you want to pass that course. You want to push for that number. You will destroy your feelings to get that number to pass the course. So if the course you're just about to sign on to has got a number into it, by human nature, you're going to push for that number and not push for the development or the skills. It's human nature. And that's where it gets dangerous. That's where freediving gets dangerous. Straight away gets dangerous, because people are trying to push to a random number. It's random. Nobody else in the world, unless it's a world record, nobody else in the world cares what that number is that you're striving to do. Okay, so somebody just asked exercises for lockdown. Well, I'm going to be doing some more live streams. I'm not going to state that I'm going to do them Monday, Wednesday and Fridays, because that just really starts like locking me down. But I will endeavour to do 2 or 3 a week over this 4-week lockdown. Okay, I'm going to cover some of the information that we've covered before, but also I really want people to kind of keep thinking about freediving. I know I give these exercises, and that was actually the answer to the question: have you got any exercises to do for lockdown? Yeah, I did 50 videos in the first lockdown of exercises to do, and Alethea's offered to go through and index them, so I can refer to them actually by a video number. Okay, so there's your first answer. They're all in the back catalogue. But I realised that me just talking about certain exercises, certain things, gets you thinking, and I know most people don't go away and go, oh, I'm going to do that exercise, or rather, no, let's go back to human nature. I realised that everybody watches me on the video and go, oh, I'm going to do that exercise tomorrow, and then never gets around to doing it. So I'm going to do some exercises online in the YouTube live streams in the next 4 weeks. I'm going to try and do 3 a week. I'm going to try and do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but it's Mondays I'll keep definite, Wednesdays and Fridays kind of maybe not. So when lockdown starts on Thursday, I'll try and put them up, and I'll be running through some breath awareness exercises because they work really well. I'm going to try and get Gabby, I know you're watching, to do a second part of a massage. Hopefully Sophie will do a meditation, and hopefully Marco will do his yoga, and we'll do some we're going to try and get some Zoom exercises going in the next 4 weeks. So short answer, stuff you can do is in the lockdown videos, which are all named lockdown videos. Long answer, well, long answer as in the next 4 weeks. Come along, join in, and stay posted. Somebody else asked about packing, and that's a really good question. In fact, somebody else asked after the unpacking video I did a couple of weeks ago. There's a couple of people asking about packing, so a really good topic for us to kind of just spend a few minutes on now. So when you go down, when you dive, and if you watched the video from 3 weeks, oh, I apologise I didn't do a video last week. We're in the middle of Dartmoor, and there was no signal, and it was quite tough, so I apologise for no video last week, if anybody was worried about it. So a couple of weeks before that we did unpacking. So when you go down and the pressure of the water is on the chest, moves the chest inwards, okay, you unpack to get air out of your lungs. Now this is different, I explained back then and I'll explain again, it's different from mouth fill, where you're filling your mouth so that you don't have to unpack, because your chest is not flexible enough to allow you to unpack, and that's why mouthful is dangerous. Whereas unpacking, you're pulling up air and your chest will flex in. If you can make a noise, your chest is flexing and you're good to go. So this is unpacking, and again, I've covered a couple of times the ETT, which is an equalization training tool which helps you practice this, and bedtime stretches, which allows the flexibility, okay? And the bombilla as well, which helps things. So there's 3 exercises you can do for that. Packing, on the other hand, is the opposite. So before the dive, if I take a lungful of air, maybe, I don't know, let's say it's 7 litres, okay? That's 7 litres of air. In fact, I should make my numbers a lot simpler, shouldn't I? Oh, don't know why I'm doing that. Okay, so let's say, for sake of argument, these numbers are not realistic. I'll give you that now. They just make the maths easier. Okay, so if I take a lungful of air and it's 5 litres, okay, and I go down to 10 metres, that's going to be compressed down to half, so 2.5 litres. Okay, if I can, at the surface, take a bigger lungful of air, maybe, kind of pack some extra air in, as it were, so maybe 10 litres. Again, this is not realistic numbers, but the maths are easy. So I get 10 litres of air in there, okay? Don't forget, it will be compressed, so it'll still be in my lungs, which are apparently 5 litres, okay? But there'll be at double the pressure. Okay? When I dive down to 10 metres, it'll go back to 5 litres of air. So I start at 10 metres with 5 litres of air, which means by the time I go to 30 metres, I'm at 2.5. I remember I was at 2 before when I just took a simple lungful of 5 litres, went down to 2.5 at 10 metres. With my packing, shoving extra air in my lungs, gives me that 2.5 litres of air at 30 metres. Okay. It goes down to 1.25 litres at 70 metres. Whereas a normal breath without packing, you'll be at 1.25 litres at 30 metres. So big differences here in the depth you get to with the amount of air in your lungs. Now, I said before that when you go down, your chest compresses, okay, and the flexibility in your chest denotes where you can get air up and where you're safe to be. Okay, it's all about safety. Okay, it's not about equalizing, it's about keeping yourself safe. Your equalization is part of that, okay, but not all of it. So as you go down, the compression comes in. Now, if you can pack, let's stick with these numbers, these unreal numbers. If you can pack an extra 5 litres of air into your 5 litres of lungs, okay, as you go down, the pressure's not going to have that as much effect. 10 metres down to 30 metres, and you're still going to have air to equalise with. Okay. Now, it's not necessarily the volume, it's not the numbers that you put in, it's the amount of air compared to, it's a ratio compared to what you can normally put in. Okay, that's the theory behind it. Now, I think let's say my lung capacity is something like 7 litres. My very top, when I was competing and working, training real hard, technique was good, lungs were strong, I got 2 litres extra in. Yeah, so 7 to 9 litres. That's quite a good pack. Okay. So it wasn't like 5 to 10. It was 7 to 9. Okay. But it still makes a big difference as you go down as to where your chest is coming in. But the dangers of it are that the lungs are trying to expand. Now, if your lungs aren't strong, you can have barotrauma, pressure-related injuries at the surface because your lungs are under pressure. Okay, so it's still going to be a barotrauma. As the lungs are expanding, they'll also, in the middle there, don't forget, in the middle of your lungs is your heart. And as your lungs are expanding and kind of trying to stretch out, they're going to put pressure on the heart. And this is not going to be good. It also affects the surrounding blood vessels, and the extra pressure makes the body react, and you can have a blackout. You can have a packing blackout. So that's the danger. And I've got to word this carefully. It's easier than you'd think to have a packing blackout. And you're in water, you're blacked out, you're dead. Worst case scenario. Doesn't matter if it's the beginning of the dive, doesn't matter if it's the end of the dive. If you're in water and you black out, there's a possibility of death. So the danger level is super high. Right. Why would you want to pack? To give yourself more numbers, get deeper. Oh, okay. Does that make you a better diver? No. Does it make the dive more dangerous? Yes. Does it give you bigger numbers? Yes. So it goes back to my first point. Why would you pack? Because you want to go deeper. It's the same I say to people all the time, that if you're striving for these numbers, you can't do a length, 2 lengths, or or depth, or whatever it is. But if I buy a new wetsuit, I'll be able to make that, because it'll be easier. If I buy a new monofin, I'll be able to make that distance. Does it make you any better? No. It just makes you go further, gives you bigger numbers. And kind of the same with packing. Okay? Yes, you'll be able to go deeper. Are you better? Not really. Having said that, you can go slightly deeper. You've actually got more air, so by 5'10", kind of scenario, you've got twice as much of oxygen available to you in your lungs when you start your dive. So there is an argument that it's slightly safer because you've got twice as much oxygen, or a ratio more oxygen than you would have if you didn't pack. Okay. There's also an argument that I'm lazy. I'm super lazy in my diving, so I'll take a breath. That's not a full breath, but I'm too lazy to take the rest of the breath. It's quite a lot of work to kind of then do my stomach and chest, and then that's quite a lot of effort. I can't be bothered to do that. So what I will do, I'll take most of a breath and then pack 3 or 4 times. So I still get the full breath, but without the effort. And then away I go. I don't breathe out. I don't make a horse sound before I dive. So I pack, and then I dive. So I still get the full lungful. I'm not going for the extra lungful. I'm going for the lungful, but with less effort. Okay? So there are advantages to packing. There's also, you may say, you probably are saying, some of you might be, but why pack in a pool then? Well, 2 reasons why you're packing a pool. The first is for consistency. Okay? If you're this deep in water, you cannot take as much air in as if you're this deep in water. Okay? The pressure of the water will stop you taking as much air in. But if you use packing, you can get to a full lungful of air. And if you weighted yourself nicely, and you know the depth of the pool, you know where you're going to swim at, your dynamic is on point, your balance is on point, you need a consistent breath, a full lungful. So you can use it in the pool for that. I'm at full lungful, and it doesn't matter where the water level is when I start the dive. Different pools, different water levels, don't care. I am set. Okay? Still lazy, full breath every time. The other thing is, it locks the glottis off somewhat. Some people actually feel that uncomfortable, but if you're doing a static, it can be something that you can help. You can use the air, the extra pressure to lock the glottis, so you don't even have to hold your breath. It just holds it itself. Okay? But you don't need to pack, as Francois Gautier said to me, the phrase he used, you don't have to pack like a pig to get either of those effects. So why do people pack like a pig when they do static? I don't know. I feel uncomfortable. I don't, as I said, 7 to 9 litres. The extra oxygen you're going to get is marginal. The extra effort it is to hold in when you overpack, not overpack, but pack a lot. It's quite awkward. I feel uncomfortable. I use more energy. I can't see it. People actually have packing blackouts in pools, which to me doesn't make any sense at all. But that's just me. If you're packing that much before a static, can't see why. Unless it's a world record. But then again, most people who do world records don't pack that much. So even for a world record, it's not a reasonable reason. Okay, so hopefully I've answered a couple of questions, and I have fulfilled the requirement of the secret to freediving. It's honesty. Honesty about yourself and honesty about what you're doing. With this honesty comes safety. Because it's tough sometimes if you're on a boat and everybody's there and going, yeah, we're going to dive in here, we're going to see this, we're going to do that. And there's something that you don't feel comfortable at, and you're sitting on the boat going, yeah, I don't feel comfortable about this. This is where honesty comes in. Stand up and say, I'm not diving today. It's fine. Yeah, I'll stand about, I'll pull some ropes. It's tough, it's difficult, because you want to get in there and do the things, but there's something that you don't feel comfortable about. Sit it out. Okay? And also honesty in why you train. What are you looking for? Because if you're not honest with what you're looking for, you're never going to find it. But if you are honest with what you're looking for, and most of the time it's not numbers, it's not time and depth, then you can work towards it, and you might find it. So have a think about that in the next couple of days. I'll be putting some new videos up, and it looks like we've got a few more people watching than at the beginning, so I'll repeat my news. 2 pieces of news, one quite good and one really bad. Pool's closing on Thursday, so no pool sessions for the next month. Haven't heard about open water places yet, so we may kind of pop down to a lake, but I can't say anything about that. Pools are definitely closing for a month. And my latest video, our latest video, the ultimate freedive site, will be premiering this weekend. So it's a cave that we found in Kefalonia that is literally the ultimate freedive site that we found by accident, and the video's there to prove it. And another big up to Stephen and those guys at Deeper Blue, who are running an article about said dive series, holiday trip, expedition, that's the word I was looking for. And so thank you very much. Later this week I'll be putting out the dates for Egypt, so next June, COVID dependent, but it'll be over by then. It's June next year, it'll be finished. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully your comments will stay on when we press save, but thanks for your comments, and speak to you later. Thank you very much. See you later in the week.